Salvete discipuli et discipuli. That's Latin for welcome students. As you can see already, we are going to be getting back into our ancient history, I don't know if you call it series, but just that subject area. Now our first video we did on ancient Greece, so this time we're going to switch it up and we're going to go to ancient Rome, because I feel like even though that they are two different eras and two different civilizations, I think a lot of people just lump Greece and Rome together. So I kind of would like to learn about both of them at the same time. This video was also highly requested, going back months to the very beginning of my channel, so we are finally getting around to it. And Roger's got a new hat. He's very proud of it, by the way. I mentioned in the ancient Greece video that I knew more about ancient Greece than Rome just because I had listened to the Yale lectures on their ancient Greek history course. So I was already somewhat familiar with ancient Greece, but when it comes to Rome, I've never formally studied Rome. I did take Latin for 2 years in college, so I suppose through that I had a bit of exposure to ancient Rome. What I do know about it is that there is an ancient mythology that Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus. And if you're a Star Trek fan, those two words are very, very familiar. Because Star Trek basically ripped off the Romans and made them into the Romulans. Live long and prosper. I still can't do it. Like, I have to do that. Live long and prosper. Anyway, I also think that there were kings and then the Republic came along and then the Roman emperors happened. I do know about Kaiser, which is how you're supposed to actually pronounce it, I think, based on all of the scholars. But in modern English, we say Caesar. And I know about, Caesar Augustus and Nero. There are a few other ones that I'm kind of familiar with, although they're not coming to mind right now. Oh, Julius Caesar? I guess. I know the Romans are famous for the aqueducts and a lot of their infrastructure. I know that they had like public toilets and they were like the first ones to come up with like the underground plumbing system, maybe. I know the US government in particular, maybe our Senate is kind of modeled after the Roman Senate somewhat. It's not really the same thing exactly, but I think the founding fathers of the United States took some ideas from what ancient Rome did and implemented them into our government. I know France used to be called Gaul, I believe, and I think the empire went all the way up to the Middle Ages, although I think it started to kind of really decline in the West anyway, around 400 AD, or CE, if you want to go by the more modern term. But I was recently reminded on one of my other videos that the Eastern Empire kind of went on to the Middle Ages, and that went into I think Turkey. Constantinople was, I think, a big Roman city, which is now Istanbul, is that right? And I have learned in the past a little bit about the Roman legions and the way that they kind of conducted their military. I think they did actually pay their soldiers too, but I really don't know very much about it. I'm expecting to learn a lot of new things in this, way more I think than I learned in the ancient Greece video, because that was more of a review, I feel like, for me. But this one I'm sure is going to have a ton of new information that I don't know about. So let's learn about ancient Rome.
Here are the letters the Romans gave us. And here are the countries whose languages derive from Latin. Today they cover half the world. As for the ancient Romans, the boundaries of their state encompassed their entire civilization. The Roman peace, or Pax Romana, serves as the first example of globalization. Let's take a walk across 12 centuries of the Roman history. And yes, those numerals are also a Roman legacy.
12 centuries is a very, very long time. I guess I didn't think about it in terms of centuries, but my goodness, that is a very long time to have an empire. Is that maybe the longest empire in history? I would assume so, maybe.
What is Rome? A city on 7 hills, capital of Italy. But that is today. And 2,000 years ago, there it is. Another 1,000 years ago, there. A tiny tribal settlement of the Latins by the river Tiber. How did this manage to conquer the world? First, it was lucky with its neighbors. To the north, the Etruscans of modern Tuscany, a mysterious people whose language has never been fully deciphered. To the south, Greek colonies. These peoples all traded with each other. It was at the crossroads of their trade routes that Rome appeared. From the very start, Rome has been an open city, a safe haven for outcasts, murderers, runaway slaves. Rome offered migrants a unique opportunity to become fully fledged citizens. This will make Rome the largest metropolitan city of the ancient world. The Romans themselves believed.
So what he's saying right here is just reminding me, a lot of people have compared the United States with the Roman Empire. I mean, there are a lot of ways that you can make that comparison, and I won't get into all of that. I don't know, what do you guys think about that? I think that there are a lot of similarities between the United States and Rome. Obviously, the United States has not been around for very long, but I feel like as far as maybe the amount of influence and power, I wonder just how similar it is to ancient Rome and the Roman Empire. And I've heard also people talk about the Pax Americana before. I'm just curious, what do you guys think about that comparison? Do you think it's a legitimate comparison, or do you think it's not?
Believed they were descendants of refugees from the Middle East who had survived the Trojan War. Romulus and Remus were the great-grandchildren of the Trojan hero Aeneas. Nursed by an Italian she-wolf, the brothers quarreled where to site the future world capital. Romulus killed Remus, gave his name to the city, and became its first ruler. As legend has it, there were 7 kings, each of which enjoyed a lengthy reign and left some beneficial legacy. A calendar, a sewer system, or the Capitolium, a temple to the senior god Jupiter. Much of what the Romans later became famous for, aqueducts, bridges, perhaps even the gladiatorial games, were borrowed from the Etruscans. This people had invented the Latin alphabet by adapting the Greek letters for their own needs. It's not surprising that their last kings were Etruscan. Rome borrowed her military and government organization from them, while maintaining her stern, patriarchal simplicity.
I don't think I knew this, that the Etruscans were such a huge influence on Rome. I had no idea. I've heard of the Etruscans before and studied about them in history, but I kind of had always just shoved them aside as like this ancient people that kind of coexisted around the time of Rome. I didn't realize that the Romans derived a lot of their stuff that he just mentioned from their civilization. So that's really interesting to me, how much influence they had. Of course, I had always heard that the Greeks had a big influence on Rome too, which I suppose they did in a way because the Romans kind of got their alphabet, it looks like, from the Etruscans, who got their alphabet from the Greek letters. And there's more to it than that as well, like maybe the arts and architecture and stuff like that. Maybe we'll get into that in this video more, but the Etruscan part, I had no idea about.
In 509, Rome was shaken by a sex scandal. The son of King Tarquin the Proud raped the chaste Lucretia. Tarquin was expelled, making him the last king of Rome. The Romans decided to prevent any such concentration of power ever again. From 509 onwards, they elected 2 consuls to serve a year apiece, instead of a monarch. The consuls were controlled by the Senate. This consisted of 300 fathers, patres in Latin, hence the term patricians. Those not so lucky to be born into the right families joined the plebs. Even if they were as rich as patricians, they were not entitled to take up positions in the state. It is in the 200-year struggle for these rights that the Republic, literally meaning public thing, will be formed. The plebeians would make up the backbone of the army, and to have their own way, they would threaten the fledgling state with emigration to a neighboring hill. Each time, the scared patricians caved in, introducing, for instance, the special position of a representative or tribune of the plebeians. These had the right to veto any decisions of the consuls. One of the main achievements of the struggle was the publication of the first written laws. By 287 BC, the plebeians had achieved complete equality of rights with the patricians. The unity of Rome found its best expression in the formula Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the Roman people, which still adorns the manhole covers in Rome.
Oh, really? That is cool. Of course, I've seen the SPQR a lot, around, but I didn't know exactly what it meant. But that's really cool that it's still on the manhole covers. That would be cool to see.
In 390 BC, the history of Rome could have come to an end. The city was unexpectedly taken by the Gauls. The guard dogs had sensed no danger, for which they would be crucified every year since. Geese awoke the last protectors of the Capitoline Hill.
Wait, what a second? Wait, what? Also, the Gauls were an actual, like... For some reason, I thought that the Romans just named France Gaul. I didn't know that they were like an actual people. Okay.
In 390 BC, the history of Rome could have come to an end. The city was unexpectedly taken by the Gauls. The guard dogs had sensed no danger, for which they would be crucified every year since. Geese awoke the last protectors of the capital.
Okay, I'm not following that part. What he's talking about with the dogs and them being crucified every year since. What? Listen to that one more time. You guys might have to explain what he means by all of that. I hope it's not literally, like... Surely they weren't crucifying dogs. I'm sure this is like a metaphor that he's saying, but I'm not getting it.
The city was unexpectedly taken by the Gauls. The guard dogs had sensed no danger, for which they would be crucified every year since. Geese...
Is he just talking like the Roman officials, the people, they didn't sense any danger from the Gauls, and so they weren't prepared for it? Is that what he's saying, basically?
Dogs had sensed no danger, for which they would be crucified every year since. Geese awoke the last protectors of the Capitoline Hill fortress instead, saving Rome from complete destruction.
Oh, is he being literal about that? So he's saying the guard dogs were supposed to warn them of the Gauls coming and they didn't do that? And the geese were the... Were they actually crucifying dogs? No way. No, that can't be... Oh my gosh, you guys have to let me know in the comments what's going on with this. Crucifying dogs seems like a really stupid... like, how would you even crucify a dog? Like, that, they don't... Okay, that can't be real. That can't... He must be, like, making a... Please be making a metaphor. Like, if they were actually crucifying dogs, I'm gonna be... Oh my gosh. If you guys have been following me on social media or on my community posts, you know that I just got a new foster dog this week, which is why it's been a while since I've posted my last video, because I've been taking care of her and getting her settled in here. I love dogs, I love animals, so oh my gosh.
Of the Capitoline Hill fortress instead, saving Rome from complete destruction.
Why do they look like they're wearing Viking helmets? Is that the Gauls? Were they wearing those? Are they kind of like the Vikings, or...?
Of the Capitoline Hill fortress instead, saving Rome from complete destruction. The shaken Romans conducted a military reform. The Roman legion was divided into manipuli, making it more mobile in battle. The Roman army spent the next 100 years in constant wars. Instead of simply imposing a tribute on the conquered, the Romans would enter into a treaty of alliance with them, and the loyal allies supply Rome with a never-ending stream of recruits. Thanks to this, the Roman legions were able to stand their ground in battle with the most efficient fighting force of the time, the all-conquering Macedonian phalanx, led by Pyrrhus, a relative of Alexander the Great. The last stronghold of resistance in Italy, the Greek city of Tarentum, then hired the most costly and celebrated contemporary warlord of the time to defend against Roman expansion. Having conquered Tarentum and reached Sicily, Rome now had to take on a much more dangerous adversary, Carthage, lord of the Mediterranean. The Romans called the Phoenicians of Carthage Punics, hence the Punic Wars. They were fought over the next 100 years. In 149 BC, Rome had taken the greater part of Punic territory and that of their allies, but after each defeat, the trading power of Carthage would rapidly recover. Senator Cato the Elder began to finish every speech with the same refrain: Carthage must be destroyed, and so it was done. The city was wiped out, all of its population was enslaved, allegedly plowing salt into the earth as an eternal curse. Also,
you know, all of this is just hitting me. Human history just kind of really sucks, doesn't it? Pretty much all it is just people just conquering land, people, killing people. That's pretty much all we've done. Why it's in our human drive to do that, I don't know. Like, I get the desire to explore and, you know, striving to reach your potential in life or whatever, but, like, I know that humans can do a lot of really great things too, and we have. But, you know, just the more I learn about history, the more I learn about just how destructive the human race has been.
Also in 146 BC, the Romans wiped out another city, Corinth, making Greece and Macedonia Roman provinces. Rome appropriated the colossal riches of the disintegrating empire of Alexander, but the patriarchal simplicity of Rome succumbed to the sophisticated Greek culture. Greek became, in effect, a second state language. The Roman nobility busied itself learning new words, hexameter, history, rhetoric. Cicero, the most famed orator of Rome, would come to model his speeches on those of the Greek Demosthenes. However, across this immense territory, full rights were only afforded to the Romans themselves. Even other Italians, the majority of the military, had no citizenship rights. These would demand equality, declare war, and win the right to take part in managing the state. This was a total game changer. While ancient Greece remained a collection of squabbling city-states, Rome gradually extended citizenship rights to the conquered, laying down the basis for an empire. Having conquered half the world, Rome fell victim to globalization. Cheap grain and an inflow of unpaid slave labor bankrupted the small farmers. These rushed into the cities and joined the ranks of the proletariat, those who have nothing to lose except their own offspring. At the same time, the rich grew 100 times richer, having bought land from the ruined peasants for a song. Previously united, the Senate and the Roman people split into two hostile camps. The tribunes of the people, the Gracchi brothers, would try to reconcile them. They proposed granting excess public lands to the impoverished peasants and suggested free distributions of bread to the poor. The disgruntled senators decided to suppress the Gracchi movement by force, killing the brothers and several thousand of their allies. Rome was gripped by civil wars. Social mobility for the proletariat was offered by Gaius Marius, a popular general. He began enrolling the proletariat into the army with a promise of a grant of land at the end of service. This would make the legions personally devoted to their generals. In 49 BC, two outstanding generals fought over Rome. Gnaeus Pompeius had won the eastern provinces for Rome, including restless Judea, cleared the Mediterranean of piracy, defeated Spartacus' slave revolt, and justifiably added the title Great to his name. Gaius Julius Caesar had conquered Gaul. Nowadays, they would call it genocide. He butchered 1 million Gauls and enslaved as many more. He went on to defeat the Germans and then invaded Britain. According to the law, a general had to dismiss his legions before returning to Rome, and in return have his moment of glory, a triumphal entry into the capital to the applause of the citizens. Caesar performed a hitherto unseen maneuver. He refused to submit to the Senate, and having crossed the Italian border, the river Rubicon, marched his legions to Rome. It would take him several years to defeat Pompey the Great and his other rivals, pitting Roman legions against each other. In the process, Caesar annexed new territories and gave Cleopatra the Egyptian throne. After a romantic cruise along the Nile, she would give birth to Caesarion, or Little Caesar. On his return, Caesar would ask...
Okay, I didn't know any of this happened. I didn't know that the Roman Empire had a civil war like this, and I didn't know that Caesar was involved with Cleopatra. Oh, so that's always why I see, like, for Halloween, people are dressed up as Cleopatra, and it's not Caesar though. Who is it that she's always paired with? It's a Roman soldier, but oh, Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Who's Mark Antony though? Okay, I have a lot to learn about this.
Or Little Caesar. On his return, Caesar would add Imperator, or Emperor, to his name, title originally meaning victorious commander, and gain control of all political positions: consul, tribune of the people, and dictator. Rumors spread that Caesar wanted to declare himself king. Conspiracy was brewing in the Senate, and Caesar was assassinated. Caesar left his wealth, quite unexpectedly for all concerned, to his grandnephew, 19-year-old Gaius Octavius. This Octavian immediately joined in the power struggle. In 31 BC, he defeated his last rival, the warlord Mark Antony, who likewise had an affair with Cleopatra. The lovers would take their own lives. Octavian was left sole ruler of a vast territory. Julius Caesar ruled for 4 years. Octavian, assuming the title Augustus, meaning the Venerable or the Great, ruled for an endless 43 years.
Wow.
He didn't formally abolish the Republic. He simply took control of all possible positions, making his power almost absolute. But he modestly called himself Princeps, the first senator. And even though skirmishes with barbarians continued along the borders, inside them the period of Pax Romana set in, a period of peace and stability that was to last 200 years. The empire experienced an economic upswing. Bread was distributed for free to 200,000 people. On Augustus' orders, a 500-meter basin was dug at the very center of the capital, where 3,000 gladiators mimicked sea battles on real seagoing vessels. In Rome, construction was booming.
I didn't know that happened. Sea battles in the Colosseum? I knew about the gladiator stuff, but I didn't know about the the recreation of sea battles.
Sea battles on real seagoing vessels. In Rome, construction was booming. Concrete multi-story districts were growing. Augustus had to introduce height.
Are those real Roman buildings? Because they look very modern. Huh. Okay, my mind's being a little blown right now.
Regulations, limiting skyscrapers to 6 floors. And still the citizens were unhappy. They complained about traffic jams, pollution of the waters of the Tiber, and high rents. The golden century of poetry dawned. Maecenas, a quasi-minister of culture, allocated special grants to praise the value of the state. Temples would be built in the honor of Augustus, and even a month was named after him. Thus, the cult of the Roman emperors was emerging. They would come to be venerated alongside Mars and Jupiter. After Augustus' power became hereditary, the senatorial opposition has left us vivid portraits of the first emperors. Suspicious Tiberius unleashed terror under the pretext of the law on treason. Under this law, any action could be deemed offensive. It was enough not to sufficiently praise the emperor or pay at a brothel with coins bearing his portrait. In distant Judea, a preacher refusing to worship the emperor as God was crucified. Caligula wanted to make his horse a consul. A scholar and gourmet, Claudius, was too occupied with feasting and the reforming of the alphabet to keep an eye on court intrigue. One of his wives, Messalina, was giving women of easy virtue a run for their money in the brothels, and the other, Agrippina, poisoned Claudius with mushrooms to enthrone her son from another marriage, Nero. Nero, believing that he was a born actor, not an emperor, would later kill his own mother, and then allegedly the apostles Peter and Paul. Then he again, allegedly, set fire to Rome so as to read the verses on the fall of Troy during the blaze. He would accuse the first Christians of arson and initiated their persecution. And finally, he took his own life. Most details of this era are known from Tacitus, a historian and senator who observed the degradation of republican institutions. Fate of the empire was now decided not so much by the Senate as by the Praetorian Guards, the emperor's personal security force, created back in the times of Augustus. These suffocated Tiberius with a cushion, slayed Caligula by the sword, and hailed Claudius emperor. In all fairness, at the same time, the empire grew, expanding into new territories. Roman legions conquered part of Britain, where they founded a town called Londinium. Provinces were given a transparent taxation system.
Oh, no way. So London is derived from the name that the Romans gave it? Wow. Okay. This is all very, very complicated. I know I'm not saying, I'm just kind of like staring at this because my mind is like spinning in circles, 1,000 miles per minute. Man, there's a lot to sort out with this. I feel like I could probably spend a lifetime studying Rome. There's just so much here.
Britain, where they founded a town called Londinium. Provinces were given a transparent taxation system, and the non-Roman nobility began to enter the Senate en masse. A grandchild of an Italian peasant, Vespasian Flavius would become the founder of the next dynasty. Vespasian and Titus, suppressing the uprising in Judea, committed genocide, again according to modern-day, not Roman standards, and reduced the Temple of Jerusalem to nothing but the Wailing Wall. On a lighter note, Vespasian had a jolly good Roman predisposition. He taxed the collectors of urine at the public toilets. And Titus, the destroyer of Jerusalem, would nevertheless obtain the title of Merciful. After a splendid triumph, he opened the Colosseum for the people. Titus would be called the love and consolation of humankind.
Okay, so I have a question for all of you guys who know about the Colosseum. Right in the middle, down below, I have seen a lot of people, like tourists and stuff, visiting the Colosseum, and what looks like should be the floor of it has all of these, it looks like a little maze or something under the floor. What is that stuff? Is that like where the gladiators would hang out? Like kind of like the locker room of the Colosseum? Because it looks like in this picture, there is the ability to put like a floor over that. Also, it doesn't look very big either. Like that looks like a really, really small area to do stuff. But I don't know how big the Colosseum is. Maybe it's bigger than what it looks like. But if you guys can explain to me what's in the middle of the Colosseum underneath, and also where did people sit? Because it doesn't look like there are any seats or anything. It's just that they just stand in the archways, or I'm really kind of confused by the design of this.
And after such festivities had depleted the public treasury, Vesuvius destroyed Pompeii, plague devastated half Italy, and Titus became a god. The 2nd century would go down in history as the era of the good emperors. Trajan was considered by his contemporaries the best emperor ever. Rome became a million-strong city, and the empire reached its largest extent. Rome connected her new territories via a network of paved roads. This system still determines the transport map of Europe. After Trajan's conquest, Hadrian busied himself with defense, erecting massive fortifications in Britain and between the Rhine and the Danube. Pantheon was built in Rome, the first temple to be topped by a massive dome, a real architectural sensation of the day, dedicated to all the gods. Hadrian would also include his lover among them, the young Antinius. More of his images have survived than of any Roman. The last good emperor, the throned philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, would spend most of his reign on military expeditions. In between battles, he wrote his manifesto for Stoic philosophy, Meditations. It was under Marcus Aurelius' son, Commodus, that the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, came to an end. He preferred a gladiator's glory to the affairs of state. Conspirators had the emperor strangled by a fellow fighter, the slave Narcissus. Rome sank into chaos. The next 100 years brought a sequence of random emperors proclaimed by the army. Taking their turn on the throne were a liberated slave, a fortune seeker who bought the throne at an auction, General Punic descent who would place statues of the former enemy, Hannibal all over the empire, a Syrian priest of the sun, and a former shepherd who owed his popularity to his powerful physique. In 212, Emperor Caracalla, half North African, half Syrian, granted Roman citizenship to nearly all free subjects of the empire. The idea that you could be a Roman in Judea, in Africa, or any other corner of the empire at all might well be the main legacy of Rome still in use today. By mid-century, Rome was already in the midst of such a crisis that the whole provinces were starting to split off. The Gauls, for instance, proclaimed an empire of their own. Order would be restored by the son of a liberated slave, Diocletian. Having started his career as a soldier, he would end up an absolute monarch, an astonishing example of social mobility. Diocletian split the empire into four, with 4 co-rulers at 4 capitals, situated closer to the frontier. Rome lost its significance. The Senate became a town council. The country was now ruled by an army of officials personally reporting to the emperor. Thus, the ancient world, centered around the concept of a free community and free citizens, came to an end. From the princeps, the first senator, the emperor had become the dominus, a title by which slaves addressed their masters. The citizen became a subject, the warrior turned into a soldier, and the farmer a semi-serf. Diocletian himself resigned from the post of emperor 20 years later, and went off to his estate to grow cabbages.
So just quick question, is that kind of like the foundation of the monarchy system and like feudalism and stuff in Europe?
After Diocletian's departure, the co-rulers were fighting for power. Constantine, the future Saint Constantine the Great, emerging victorious. Before the crucial battle for Rome, he allegedly had a vision of a cross. After this, he made all religions equal. After 300 years of persecutions, the Christians came out of the catacombs and were now entitled to build churches alongside the temples of Augustus and Mars. Constantine would take the cross from Jerusalem to the new capital of the Roman Empire, Constantinople. Theodosius I would make Christianity the official religion and begin to destroy the ancient temples. He would also be the last emperor of a united Roman Empire. His sons split the empire into west and east. The eastern half would live another 1,000 years and is known to us as Byzantium. The western part would fall victim to the great migration of peoples. Rome, founded by migrants, would fall to the onslaught of a new wave of refugees. Ironically, the last ruler of Rome would be called Romulus.
Okay.
In modern Rome, not far from the Colosseum and the ruins of the Forum, there is a tomb. Its occupant was neither emperor nor senator, but a simple baker called Ulysses. Likely born a slave into a family of Greek migrants, he later entered into a bread supply contract with the capital and became so rich that he could build such a monument for himself and his wife. Before Rome, in ancient Egypt and elsewhere, or after Rome during the Middle Ages, a man would die in the same station in life as he had been born in. The life and career of Ulysses is an answer to the question of how Rome was able to create a global state that lasted over 1,000 years.
Wow, okay, I feel like there was way more information in that than even the ancient Greece one. The ancient Greece one was hard to follow. This one was, I feel like there's just way more going on. And of course, to me, there are a lot more recognizable names, you know, stuff like that than Greece. I guess that kind of shows that Rome has a little bit more of an influence on Western civilization, maybe, and maybe we're just taught more about that than ancient Greece. But yeah, a ton of new information in that. There were some, you know, laid out that I kind of already knew about, but for the most part, I would say that I didn't know, you know, a lot of this. I didn't know that Constantinople was named after Constantine, and I also don't think I realized just how responsible the Romans were for making Christianity kind of like a global religion. There are so many things that are in place today that are a direct result of the Roman Empire. As savage as it may have been, you know, in certain areas, it also did a lot, it seems like, to establish our modern world. So I think more in-depth study with this would be fascinating to do. And like I said, I feel like it would take a lifetime because, you know, we've got 1,200 years to cover. I hope that you guys can answer some of my questions down in the video. I feel like I just had a ton of them in this one. And I'm sure this is going to spawn a lot more videos on ancient Rome. We're also gonna, you know, stay in ancient Greece too. A lot of you have asked me to do the Alexander the Great series, I think on Epic History TV, so we're probably gonna do that as well. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe. And also, if you would like to follow me on social media, I have some accounts here for you guys. On Facebook, I have a group and a page, but you'll want to join the group because that's where all of the fun discussion happens. And if you have any more videos on ancient Rome that will springboard off of any of this, let me know, because I am not really super aware of all of the history type videos on YouTube, and I know you guys are. So let Roger and I know what we should watch next. And as always, we appreciate you watching and answering our questions, and we hope we'll see you next time.